Hey everyone, today we're going to be taking a look at the second generation of the Ecoflow Delta power station that combines the best features of their flagship Delta Pro model into a portable and affordable package. It's called the Delta 2, and although this may look the same as the original Delta on the outside, there are massive improvements on the inside that really take this to the next level. My favorite upgrade is this now has a safer and longer lasting LFP battery chemistry for 4 times the lifespan compared to the NCM battery in the original Delta. It also includes expansion battery support to bring the total capacity to 2 or even 3 kilowatt hours. It also adds Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, so this can now connect to Ecoflow's excellent smartphone app and get firmware updates, which is something the original Delta lacked. USB output has been improved with dual 100 watt USB-C ports, and solar was given a 100 watt bump to 500 watts of input. AC output is unchanged at 1800 watts continuous, but Ecoflow added their X-Boost feature to allow you to power certain appliances up to 2200 watts. Ecoflow includes an industry-leading 5-year warranty, which is 2 to 3 years longer than competitors. And best of all, Ecoflow has excellent phone and email support to back that up. The Delta 2 retails for $999, and the extra battery doubles its capacity and retails for $799. The bundle with both is $1,798. It's available now on Ecoflow's site and Amazon, and if you purchase this within the first week, Ecoflow will include a waterproof bag for the Delta 2, which is a $69 value. Check out the description for my links and coupon code that will save you an additional 5% off your purchase and help support the channel. I'll cut to the chase. If you're looking for the best general purpose power station in 2022, this is my top pick, hands down. The Delta 2 hits the sweet spot. It is small enough to be easily portable, strong enough to power pretty much anything you'd plug into a wall outlet, and has enough capacity to run it for a long time. You could use it to power up to 15 devices at the same time when camping, powering a camper van build, or backing up essential circuits in your home when the grid goes down. In this video, I'll walk you through all the features and explain why I think this is the top pick for most people. I'll also compare it to some popular power stations from other brands at the end of the video. The original Ecoflow Delta launched on Kickstarter in the fall of 2019, and its super fast charging and powerful AC output blew everyone's minds. But 3 years later, it was hard to recommend compared to Ecoflow's newer units because it had fallen a bit behind feature-wise. The Delta 2 looks very similar to the original on the outside. The front panel has the same bright, crisp display that shows the state of charge, input and output watts, time to empty or filled, and indicators of which ports are on. Below is a powerful set of USB-A and C outputs. Around the back are the wall charger and solar inputs, 5 AC outlets for the 1600 watt pure sine wave inverter, and at the bottom there's a regulated 12 volt DC cigarette output and 2 5521 barrel connectors. There's physical buttons to turn on the USB, AC, and DC ports independently, which I really like. On both sides are dual fans to keep the electronics cool. It is surprisingly small and light. The burly handles on top make it easy to carry, even one-handed. In the box they include the AC charging cable, a 12 volt car charging cable, and a 5521 cable, but no solar charge cable is included. The MC4 to XT60 solar cable is now a separate accessory, so be sure to add that adapter if you plan on using solar. Things get interesting on the inside with a number of big improvements that make this the best mid-size power station on the market. First, the Delta 2 has a much safer and longer lasting lithium iron phosphate or LFP battery that increases battery life from 800 cycles in the original Delta NCM battery to 3000 cycles. That's almost a 4 times longer lifespan, so you can cycle this battery every day from 0 to 100% for 10 years and still have 80% of the battery capacity left, so it's great for off-grid scenarios. LFP batteries have a lower energy density than NCM, so I was concerned that switching to this chemistry would make this unit a lot larger and heavier. However, instead, this version is actually 4 pounds lighter. This is unbelievably lightweight and easy to carry for such a powerful power station. I could easily carry both the Delta 2 and extra battery at the same time, no problem. Delta 2's internal battery capacity is rated at 1024 watt hours, which is enough to power real appliances for a decent amount of time. But if you need more power, the Delta 2 is now expandable like the Delta Max and Pro models. The new Delta 2 extra battery has a 1024 watt hour LFP battery that doubles the runtime when you need it. It's the same dimensions as the main unit, but only weighs 21 pounds because of the simpler electronics. On top, there's an integrated storage compartment to hold the battery cable and other accessories. The front panel is very simple. It has a display and a power button. That's it. The battery is passively cooled with a large aluminum heatsink on the back, so there's no need for fans in the battery. The battery connector port is on the top right side, and it's protected by a rubber cover, just like the main unit. The 42-inch long battery cable has a super beefy construction with 8-gauge wire. To connect the units, you first need to make sure they're off, and then just plug them together. The connectors don't lock, but it's a snug, secure fit. Once connected, these act as a single unit, with the software trying to keep their state of charge roughly in sync when charging and discharging. The cable is long enough that you can either place them side by side or stacked. I personally prefer stacked because the cable gets in the way more when they're next to each other. In fact, I wish they used a right angle cable to keep the connection lower profile, or had some sort of integrated connector on top to avoid the cable altogether. Maybe Ecoflow will borrow the slick right angle plugs from their power kits in a future version. For even more power, the Delta Max's 2 kilowatt expansion battery can be added instead for a total capacity of 3 kilowatt hours. Luckily, I have the Delta Max and was able to test this out. I was able to connect the Max battery to the Delta 2 and it seemed to work great. When discharging quickly with a space heater attached, all the power came from the Max battery rather than splitting it between the two units. And I wasn't able to charge the Max battery, but that's because there's a future firmware update that will make the Delta aware of the Max's larger battery. I love the idea of expansion batteries because it keeps the main unit light and portable for use on the go, but you can quickly scale this up for a more permanent install in a van or home by attaching an extra battery. The connector for the extra battery can also be used to connect the Delta 2 to Ecoflow's Wave air conditioner and smart generator, so this adds a lot of flexibility and taps you into the larger ecosystem of products that Ecoflow offers. The original Delta lacked Wi-Fi, which meant no smartphone app or firmware updates. The Delta 2 adds both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth. They also launched an all-new app design that is more minimal than the original. You can direct connect through Wi-Fi or Bluetooth when on the road, or join it to your home Wi-Fi to monitor and control it from anywhere in the world. The app is incredibly useful because it lets you monitor the details of the inputs and outputs, turn the ports on and off, and dig into settings to configure things like the AC charging speed and min-max state of charge. Ecoflow's app is by far the best in the industry, and it's so great to see it finally supported on the Delta 2. Let's talk about the output options on the Delta 2. First off, the USB ports have been seriously upgraded from a single 60-watt USB-C port to a pair of 100-watt USB-C ports for a 200-watt total, which is great for recharging power-hungry devices like a MacBook Pro. It also includes 4 standard USB-A outputs, and in my tests I could charge 2 laptops and a number of USB devices at once and pull over 200 watts from just USB. There's also a 1,800 watt pure sine wave inverter capable of 2,700 watts of surge power, which is similar to the original Delta, but seems to be more efficient. On the back, there are 4 2-prong and 2 3-prong outlets to connect up to 6 AC appliances. For such a small unit, this is a really powerful AC output that should power pretty much any standard appliance that you can plug into the wall. In my tests, I was able to pull 1,800 watts for 20 minutes with no signs of distress, so it definitely met its continuous power rating. In fact, I was able to pull 2,300 watts for a full minute before it tripped the overload, so there's some really good headroom in this design. For peak power, I was able to briefly hit 2,600 watts for a fraction of a second. This also has the X-Boost feature the original Delta lacked that lets you run certain appliances like space heaters. It works by lowering the voltage to stay within the inverter limit, so I hardly use it. And in my test, it actually didn't seem to make much of a difference running a space heater. The Delta 2 worked so well powering every appliance around the house, I decided to test it with my 10-inch chop saw out in the garage. And it worked perfectly, and pulled 1,350 watts. I also tried this 1,700 PSI power washer, and it powered it no problem with a steady 1,500 watts, which kind of surprised me because the GFIs in this can be very picky about power. It also has an EPS feature that lets you connect critical appliances, and when the power goes out, it will automatically switch from the grid to the battery within 30 milliseconds. This is super useful for things like internet routers and PCs that need to stay up even when the grid goes down. Efficiency-wise, when I discharge this over 5 hours with a 200 watt AC load and a 0.2C test, I was able to pull 830 watt hours of the 1024 watt hour rated capacity for an 81% rate, which is above average and much better than the original Delta. When I did the same test with the extra battery connected, I measured 1,730 kilowatt hours for an impressive 84%. When pushing the Delta 2, the fans really get spinning at full output. I measured the fan noise at 55 decibels at 1 meter, which is fairly loud. DC output is fully regulated at a steady 12.6 volts for the 10 amp cigarette port and the pair of 3 amp 5521 ports. That's great for powering a portable compressor fridge, and I was able to run my Iceco JP40 fridge at 0 degrees Fahrenheit with eco mode on for 42 hours. Not too shabby. In my DC efficiency test with a 100 watt load over a 10-hour period, I was able to pull 850 watt hours, which translates to an impressive 83%. Standby losses are excellent on this unit. When I left the DC ports on but nothing connected, it was still at 100% after 8 hours, which is very impressive considering this has a regulated DC output. AC losses were also much better than average. I only lost about 0.75% per hour with the ports on and nothing connected. I'm very happy to see Ecoflow focusing on efficiency like this. You can recharge the Delta 2 from the wall, solar, or car. First of all, the Delta 2 charges at a blistering 1,200 watts with Ecoflow's Extreme technology. That just means there's no need for an external power brick. You just plug the cable into the wall and you're ready to go. In my test, I was able to charge this from 0 to 75% in 45 minutes and to 100% in an hour and 20, which is incredibly fast. Charging both the Delta 2 and external battery took a bit over 2.5 hours, so no surprises there. You can use the outputs while you charge because it supports pass-through charging. If you're not in a hurry, or just want quieter charging, you can configure the charging speed between 200 and 1200 watts in the app, which is an awesome feature. Now, speaking of noise, when charging at 1200 watts, the fans run at full blast, just like the AC inverter did. And it's a fairly loud 55 decibels at 1 meter. If you turn charging input to below 900 watts, the fans are a much more reasonable 48 decibels, which is almost half as loud. At 200 to 400 watts of charging, the unit is near silent. Solar charging has been upgraded from 400 watts to 500 watts in the Delta 2 by increasing the amperage max from 10 amps to 15, but it's still limited to the same 11 to 60 volts. With the right panels, you can realistically solar recharge the Delta 2 in about 3 hours. As I mentioned, the cable you'll need to connect a standard solar panel with MC4 connectors is not included in the box because Ecoflow has shifted to including that cable with all their solar panels. Fortunately, I was able to use the solar cable from my Delta Max, and that worked great. I tested solar charging with my Ecoflow 400 watt folding panel. It's rated at 48 volts 11 amps, so it's a good option for recharging this unit fairly quickly. Even in less than ideal conditions, I was getting about 350 watts from the panel and was able to charge from empty to 100% in a little over 4 hours, so you'll need a solid full day of sun. Now that's speedy for this size unit, but it would take almost 2 days to charge this with the 1 to 2 kilowatt external battery attached. So I wish this could handle a little bit more solar input. You can also charge the Delta 2 with the included cigarette lighter adapter that charges at up to 10 amps or 127 watts. In my test, my Pacifica charged at about 100 watts, so it will take about 12 hours to recharge this in the car. Why so slow? Well, that's the absolute max current this kind of connector in your car can handle. In fact, if the cable gets too hot or blows a fuse in your car, you can adjust the charging speed lower in the app, which is a really helpful feature. The Delta 2 is a very strong statement from Ecoflow that they want to own this 1 kilowatt segment, but let's talk about comparable power stations from other brands you may be considering to see how they stack up. The Anker 757 Powerhouse is the only unit that has a modern design, LFP battery, quality display, and fast charging like the Delta 2, but it unfortunately lacks expandability and smartphone app control and isn't quite as powerful. It just doesn't really measure up, especially for $400 more. The new Jackery 1000 Pro is a brand new model with many of the same features of the Delta 2, and it has an efficient AC output, quieter fans, and includes a pair of 400 watt MPPT chargers, but they still use proprietary solar connectors, older NMC battery chemistry, slower 800 watt wall charger, smaller 1400 watt inverter. It's not expandable, and there's no app control. Considering it retails for $100 more, I just don't think it's a good value. Now, Goal Zero used to be my top pick, but the Yeti 1000X is very outdated at this point with its slow wall charger, NCM battery chemistry, no app support, and expensive lead acid expansion batteries. Now, they just announced that they're going to knock $200 off the price, but that still makes it $300 more money than the Delta 2. Bluetti has a real Goldilocks problem at this size. The EB70S is a solid unit with LFP battery, but its smaller 700 watt battery and 800 watt inverter puts it in a smaller size class altogether with the River Pro, so it's not a real competitor here. It also has a loud power brick, pretty basic display, and lacks app control. The Bluetti EB150 has a 1500 watt hour battery, so it's much larger and heavier, and is a much older design with NCM battery, super basic display, loud wall charger brick, no USB-C, and no car charging support. I'm sure Bluetti will roll out a competitive unit soon in this space, but for now, they're just not in the running. Look, the Delta 2 is by far the best 1 kilowatt power station you can buy. It's not even close. By itself, the Delta 2 is an incredible mid-size power station, but the addition of the extra battery really takes it to another level. Being able to double or even triple the capacity of the Delta 2 by adding an expansion battery takes this into a different size class that can compete with the larger 2 kilowatt units like the Delta Max or Bluetti AC200 Max. The list of pros on the Delta 2 is long and ticks every box I think a modern power station should have. It's got a long-lasting and safe 1 kilowatt LFP battery that's expandable up to 3 kilowatts, a great display, and an even better smartphone app. Extremely powerful AC output, dual 100-watt USB-C ports, regulated DC output, super fast wall charging, 500-watt MPPT solar charger, and very low standby losses, all in an incredibly lightweight and well-designed package that is very reasonably priced at $999. So is the Delta 2 perfect? Well, it's pretty darn close, but there are a few things that I wish were different. First, the fans are pretty loud when charging at full speed or running very large loads. It's not a big deal, but it's still worth mentioning. Next, it bothers me that they don't include the MC4 solar charging cable in the box and that it's an added expense as an accessory. Now, solar charging is pretty robust, but it is limited to 60 volts and 500 watts, and I wish it had a little bit of a higher voltage threshold for more flexibility in how I'd wire my panels. This does not have a wireless charging pad that many of the Bluetti units have, and it might be a nice convenience. And I love the expansion port on this unit, but there's only one. The battery cable itself is really well made, but because of that, it's a bit stiff and awkward and can stick out a bit. Lastly, I wish the expansion batteries were usable by themselves like Bluetti's batteries, so I could use the DC output without actually even attaching it to the main unit, and charge them independently. All in all, pretty minor stuff. So if you're shopping for the best all-around power station for most situations and most people, the Delta 2 is the way to go. Full stop. There is still a place for small units if portability is paramount, and larger units that will run your entire house off-gridded, but for most people, the Delta 2 is an easy recommendation with no major caveats. It's that good. So if you want to pick up the Delta 2, definitely jump on the offer to get a free waterproof bag during the first week, and be sure to check out the description for my coupon code to save an extra 5% off your purchase. That's $90 off the bundle and $50 off the Delta 2 alone. Alright, that's everything I have to say about the new Delta 2. If you can't tell, this is my new favorite all-around unit. If this review is useful, please give it a thumbs up. Let me know what you think in the comments. Alright, thanks for watching everyone. Till next time.